Haribol. Okay. Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa namine, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prestayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa namine, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prestayate.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya,
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya.
Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Garadhara, Shri Vasade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Hari Bol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Hari Bol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Hari Bol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Krishna,
Madana Mohana.
Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Krishna,
Madana Mohana. Haribol.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Jaya Gurudev,
Hare Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Gauranga.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga.
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasayate.
Haribol Krishna, good morning everyone. So let's start our study program. So we left the topic hanging, not really in continuous narrative of what we were discussing last time because we're not able to read the pastimes of Lord Krishna. But here today, I'll read here the teachings of Rupa Goswami so we can see and check how we are moving forward in the right direction, wherein we can be achieving what we are trying or engaging in an endeavor to follow the footstep of the saintly person. So dito ngayon, makikita natin yung situation natin. So last time, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, we were discussing about Mukti-Bhukti syndrome. Bhukti means enjoyment and Mukti means liberation. You want to become free from all the experience that gives you pain, that is connected with this material world, and a disconnection from experiencing calmness, fulfillment, and you now want to be liberated from all what you did. Okay. Bhukti. Ano ang reason yung bhukti? Bhukti means enjoyment of the senses. Okay. So we analyze clearly that after understanding yung reality, yung totoo talaga na situation natin, that we are a different energy from matter, definitely if you're intelligent, bhukti means trying to find happiness through the senses, with a connection with this world through the senses. But the question is, are we really experiencing fulfillment or happiness or satiation of the heart? And if it's really fulfilling, how come after trying very hard, pursuing a goal that is based upon sensual enjoyment, how come we want to get away from all those experience we did experience when we were trying to fulfill the desire in the mind through the senses? Ibig ko sabihin, kung talagang fulfilling yung material enjoyment, how come we want to get away from all the experience of what we are engaging in and activities? We now tend to want to become free. Kaya nga, enjoyment of the senses, then after a while, we want to be liberated from all those experience, which is a nightmare for us. Broken love affairs, death of a loved one, fear, anger. Okay? We want to get away. But kung matalino kayo, matalino tayo, we ask this question: how come I am not experiencing satisfaction and fulfillment? How come I want to get away from what I have been engaging in, following yung desire? Yung desire ba sa isip nyo? Yung desire sa isip nyo, according to the modes of material nature, according to your perception, individually, relatively, according to each individual. Bakit after a while gusto nyong ihinto, umalis? Kaya papasok naman kayo sa situation na you want to become free. You go to the church. You want to be liberated. You want to experience what? Kaluwasan. Salvation. But other individuals, yung iba, they want liberation through this yoga meditation. Okay? To feel calmness in the heart by meditating. But the problem is because the living entity, tayo, we're active by nature. You will always engage in activities. Kaya hindi ka pwedeng umupo lang doon, mag-meditate ka, then after a while, you want to, this positive nonsense, positive thinking na you don't exist, suffering don't exist, and you just think positively. It's part of life. Part lang daw ng buhay yan. So you must learn to tolerate it. Okay? Para bang pinupukpok ka ng martilyo sa ulo, tolerate it. Positive lang, okay? Then after a while, mukti, enjoyment of the senses, mukti, getting away from all those experience, horrible, bizarre experience, you want to become free, okay? So maraming ino-offer dyan. Either you attend a group of wherein you join this love bombing, alam nyo yun, itaas yung kamay nyo, hallelujah, I am a member of a born again, okay? Join this different faith, or you engage in the practice wherein you engage in silent meditation. Okay? And if you know you're not the body, you engage in just silent meditation, thinking and feeling in your heart, ikaw lang ba? That calmness. Okay? And if you are unlucky, you come in contact with false guru who gives you mantra that you chant to experience alleviation, wherein you make believe you're transcendentally situated, then you're in a dire situation. Ibig sabihin nung kawawa ka. Kasi after a while, yung living entity, ikaw, after meditating, hindi ka makatagal, balik ka na naman uli. Kasi you need activity. Because by nature, you're aware and you are active by nature. So, ang pinag-usapan natin dito, anong activities ang gagawin natin? What activities should we be engaging in? Kaya yung process ng to be spiritually or transcendentally situated must be based upon wisdom, kaalaman, hindi pag-join, hindi make-believe. Parang nandyan yung problema, dahil pinanganak ka sa isang family, ganito yung belief. Belief ko, ganito ganito na kami. Pero ano yung, how do you address when you have to face yung reality? Halimbawa, you engage in material enjoyment. Then you end up getting everything. You succeed. Then hindi ka pa rin masaya. Paano mo ma-address yun? So anong address ng iba? They leave everything. Tapos yung iba naman, they go into silent meditation. So ngayon, how do we address this problem that we are always facing every moment? Every moment, because the living entity, lahat tayo, we're aware. You will always be aware. So ngayon, anong klaseng awareness? Yung array awareness that we should be having every day. So the process that we are fortunate enough to come in contact is the process of the saintly person. And it's about the transcendental sound. We should be aware to purify the mind and the heart that connects us with the source of happiness, the supreme person, Govinda or Lord Krishna, we call God. Okay? And that sound connects us. So, dalawang activities that ginagawa ng lahat at ganito yung attitude, yung outlook natin. When we are so covered by ignorance, meaning we identify falsely as the body, we are ignorant of our identity. This is our situation. What is night for all? Okay. What is night for all living beings is the time of awakening for the self-control. And the time of awakening for all beings is the night for the introspective sage. What is night for all living beings is the time of awakening for the self-control. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. So what is night for the materialists is daytime for the spiritualists. They live in completely different world. Because if you falsely identify yourself as the body, you will be directed by a force that covers you, blinds you. And it is lust, the mode of passion and material nature. Kaya, even though you're in front of the truth, and you're so thirsty, you're in front of the desert, you're in a desert world, thirsty, you cannot appreciate that in front of you, by your side, there is an oasis of water, and you're thirsty, dying of thirst in the desert because the life of someone who is ignorant of his identity is this blindness of pursuing a goal that is completely alien or different from his true transcendental nature. You are pursuing a goal of lifelessness, dead matter. Lahat ng goal dito, economic development, sensual enjoyment, social programs, mag-alaga ng unggoy, mag-alaga ng pagong, okay? Lahat yan are all materialistic activities. It will not satisfy the person. What will satisfy you is when you are situated on a transcendental platform wherein you, the person, you're aware of your true transcendental nature, and the activities you engage in is an awareness of doing the will of someone. And that someone is someone who is in control, who is your eternal friend. We call God or God. But the question is, are we able to see Him or appreciate His kindness, His love, His compassion? To enter that world, we must become purified from material desires. So the process of the saintly person is purification of the mind and the heart, that we are able to appreciate life, love. Because in material consciousness, when a person is ignorant, he is covered by lust, he's burning with lust. So he's into this libido of enjoying material senses. And the goal is about economic development, wherein your shelter is the shelter of this body, trying to perpetually, falsely, struggle for survival in the wrong direction. That's why survival in the wrong direction means you are identifying with the body, and definitely the body will die. So you're always anxious. And you are in the desert, a burning desert, and you're thirsty. So you can check that. We can check that in ourselves. Are we in the desert, or are we getting out of the desert? And how do we get out of the desert? By turning our face to see the oasis that will give us this fulfillment, that will quench our thirst. What is our thirst? So, ano yung hinahanap ng lahat? What are you trying to find? Happiness, enjoyment, and fulfillment. So, in the wrong direction, if you're covered by ignorance, according to the degree that material nature influence you, then that we should see and we should hurdle it by applying a process that we will be able to enter a world wherein our heart, our life is sheltered and protected by the divine nature of the Supreme Person, which is about His love for us, a relationship. And it is achieved when we come in contact with the spiritual master, who is His close representative, who is His close servant. So following the instruction of the spiritual master is connection with God. Okay? Resistance to doing the will of God is a diversion, an influence of material nature or Maya, wherein we resist passively or actively about putting ourselves, we are helpless in this material world, but we try to play Lord. So when you are with this understanding, you can understand clearly that yes, I'm not all powerful, and there's someone who is in control, and that person is just waiting for me, so I can surrender to him, and he can take hold of my life, which is protecting me, protecting my love that I offer. So when you make a decision to follow the instruction of Lord Krishna, when He tells you, just surrender unto me and I'll protect you. To those who are constantly devoted unto me, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. Meaning the living entity who relates to God, who follows the instruction of the spiritual master, guided by Lord Krishna, then Lord Krishna protects that person. Because the Supreme Person is someone who is the controller of all material and spiritual energy. And He is in His world, He's outside of everything, He's inside of everything. So what is happening in this material universe is just an insignificant, tiny activity that many individuals are engaging in. And those of us who are here trying to play Lord, we will be subjected to the rules. Because there's the law of time, and we are completely dependent to maintain this body from those who are controlling the energy that will maintain our body. The water, the air, everything. And the time factor that is connected with this body, then we can see how helpless we are. It's like a person o kaya an insect who comes to this world and everything is glittering. Everything is glittering when you are in ignorance of your true identity. You're not able to see dead matter. It glitters to you. Just like you're in a circus. There's so much light. It's Christmas time. You hear songs like Silver Bell, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, all of it. And emotionally song that Rose Not. O ano ba yan? Okay? You are, ano ba yung kanta nila? White Christmas. Yung mga ganon. So it glitters to you. Everything is so attractive. But it's compared to someone, yung insect who sees the spider web, it's glittering because the sun, the sunshine, the rays of the sun, touches the spider web and it's moistened by the dew, the water. And because the combination, it glitters. So what happened? The insect, he sees that, the fly, wow, and then he dives and tries to enter that glittering world. And then he gets stuck. And he wants to get out. And the spider is there waiting. And when he turns around, he sees all those covered by the spider web. Because when you get caught in that spider web, it's like the spider, okay, you will be my meal 2 days from now. So he wraps you up with the web. And you're there. You cannot get out. And you look around, how come there's so many imprisoned? Friends of mine. So it's like this in this material world. You're imprisoned by material nature, this body. It's connected with time, death, diseases, old age. And we think we're happy. We want to struggle for survival. But because we're in the wrong direction, we're ignorant, we don't know the struggle for survival is about a connection with the source of happiness. But the problem is when you're ignorant, you think that survival, happiness is connected with dead matter, then you're in the wrong direction. Because you're it's like trying to get grain from this, this, alam ba nyo yung binayunan na palay? Chop na lang? Wala nang laman ba? And pinipiga mo, sinusubukan mo ba, baka may mapiga ka pang pagbabayo, you try to get grains from those chop covering. Okay? Nothing you can get. Kaya everybody is hungry Not hungry physically, but hungry within. Kaya even though you're surrounded by so many material things, you're still hungry, thirsty, and unsatisfied, and you have a troubled mind because you're always worried, where can I find happiness? What is security? And then, anong gagawin nyo? Kaya ang tanong nila, anong ginagawa nyo everyday? You just chant, you offer. Okay? But you don't understand that God controls everything, matter or life. He's in control. And He tells you if you take shelter of Him, you'll be under His protection. Spiritual life or spiritual activities are more powerful than material activities. The struggle for survival is about the ignorance of thinking. If I am already having all these material things, then I'll devote my time to God. It will never happen. The more you engage in sensual activities and trying to entrench or dig in your life into this dead world, the more you're separated from real fulfillment because you are directing your life towards a different energy matter. Tignan niyo? If you look closely, all the lives of the saintly person, like Bali Maharaj, who's the emperor, okay? He's the controller of the universe. He gave everything away, but he had everything. Okay? You try to live a life of trying to control material nature, then you lose everything because it's connected with your body. But if you make your life surrendered and follow the instruction of Krsna, you have everything. It's just like everything here is zero. 6 zeros, no value. You put 1, there's value, 1 million. Okay? So if you put 1 or Krsna in your life by appreciating the instruction, the wisdom that is given to you by those who are following the path of the saintly person, who are liberated, then you succeed. Because it will not be upon your own power, because it will be a harmony of your love, of your surrender, of your humbleness. Please let me serve you and love you. And what is pure devotional service? It is service as the end itself. You want pleasure for the Supreme Person who is the source of pleasure. You just think, you are always thinking, how can I please my Gurudev? How can I please my spiritual master? How can I do the will of God? Yun lang. You have everything. But if you are misdirected by the modes of passion, then you lose everything. You'll be burning in the desert world. Is it clear sa inyo? So I'll read you something that you can appreciate. Engagement in the service of the Lord is the life and soul of all living entities, because that is real religion. When we speak of real religion, it is, I'll give you an example. Wetness is inseparable from water. When you say water, it's wet. When you say fire, it's burning, it's heat, it's warm. Yeah? So the living entity, loving service to God is the real religion. Because we are meant to be pleasing and serving God. And by nature, we will be active and taking shelter of someone who's more powerful than us. Okay? So perfection means you are able to understand and reciprocate with a relationship with someone who is loving us, who's taking care of us. Even though we don't see Him with our eyes, He's taking care of our body, He's taking care of our life. That is the Supreme Person. And to enter that world, it is about how we can relate to Him in harmony with our true transcendental nature as eternally the loving servant of God. So you may be engaged in so many activities. You can be an engineer, you can be a teacher, you can be a student, you can be a farmer, but with this prime spiritual understanding, you will be living in this body and you will be with the Supreme Person. You'll be the witness of what's happening. You'll not be disturbed. Because your life is connected with the transcendental word, which is your true transcendental nature. And that is achieved through the chanting of the Maha Mantra. Because the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, is the sound, non-different from God, descending. So when you chant the Maha Mantra, you connect yourself with the will of God. Because it takes charge. So the more you're aloof or you're resistant to chanting or glorification of the Supreme Person, what will happen? You will be inclined and focused and be forced to engage in material activities. You'll be servant of your senses. You will be appreciated. You will be covered by what you hear, material sound. You'll be directed by a force greater than you, no matter what you want. For example, magbibigay ako ng halimbawa sa inyo. Don't you notice there's so many so-called religious leaders, They have so many followers, okay? Seemingly from the outside, they're holy. Okay? From the outside, externally, kasi they speak about God, everything, okay? But somewhere along the line, something pops up. Something smelly comes out, okay? Activities that are repugnant, bizarre, and it's about dominion over others, exploiting others, okay? And what do the so-called religious leader and preacher do? Okay? They want to get out from that experience, and not only from what is happening. Okay? Legal suit. Alam yung legal suit? Dinedemanda ka kasi ng rape ka. Okay? O kaya, yung mga followers mo, shock. So what do? You want to get away from that. So dito nyo makikita yung position, yung kataas-taasang position na akala natin is the source of perfection or purity when you think you are holy. Okay? You're very high. Okay? You speak about God. You think that is protection? No. What is protection is when you're feeling humbleness in your heart. That you're able to take shelter of God's love. And the experience of that is that you're able to experience in your life a world of humbleness and you experience compassion upon others. Because if you're happy within, then you don't need anything that is being offered to you. Okay? Meaning kaya nga ang one qualification ng spiritual master is that he's master of his senses. He holds his senses. He holds the rein. Okay? So he tells us, sa atin lahat dito, hey, hold your horses. Okay? And how do we do that, Master? By directing your mind. The rein should hold the horses, or else something will happen. So even though those who are posing as representative of God, teaching about holiness, what happens when they cannot control the urge of the mind, the desire. So definitely the horses will run wild. So, because they're disconnected with the source of happiness, which is God's love, that is able, that oasis, the ocean, that can quench the desert tongue, the desert heart, it will inundate or flood this desert heart, which is drying up, burning, or the tongue and the mind. What happened? You don't need anything. You're able to make a decision in your life, not because you're just thinking, if I do this, I will be separated. No. You're in the direction of this transcendental breeze that you're not touched by the modes of material nature. That is why the spiritual master is a teacher by example, meaning he teaches us how to transcend material consideration. You're able to come to the point of controlling the urge of the mind, the belly, and the genitals. So yung mga so-called preachers, mga leaders, what is happening now is that they're not able to control the urge. And what is that urge all about? It is the urge to experience happiness. Now, if you identify yourself as the body and you're very selfish, you're thinking you're God, what will happen? You will be dictated by the urge of the senses. That's why you become servant of the genital. And what is that all about? because of your anger, your frustration, you try to find happiness and fulfillment through the release of this anger through your senses. That's why you see some pastor, some so-called religious leader, they begin to rape their followers. Okay? Because their anger is directed towards their senses. Okay? Anger doesn't mean you just curse, yawa, yawa. No. Or you say bad words. No. Anger means when you try to find fulfillment through this material energy, through the senses, and the release of your anger is through the senses. Eating, sleeping, mating, like an animal. Kaya yan ang problema. Mukti-mukti. So those so-called religious leaders, so begin to experience what they did, and then they want to get away from it. Because that's the resultant. You have people begin to, those whom you have exploited begins to file suit cases against you. Molestation, and the government wants to, the government will be seeing, this is an abuse of one's dignity, human dignity, wherein you are exploiting children, On a bigger scale, the problem we face in this material world is materialism. Is understood? But another problem is bigger than materialism. Materialism is about identifying yourself as a body, trying to enjoy matter. But the problem there is that you're not happy. But another bigger problem is when you think you're God. You're the lawmaker now. You're above the law because you're the law. So you can exploit your followers. It's a world wherein you have to suffer so much. So when you are experiencing this connection of humility and humbleness and following in your heart, the longing, because by nature, you'll be longing for a friend. You'll be longing for someone to protect you. And that person is the Supreme Person, Lord Krishna, Govinda. So how do we see Lord Krishna? He reveals Himself to us. And how do we reveal Himself to us? By us, in humbleness, listening to someone who loves Him. Okay? Because that someone can introduce Krishna to you. And how does that someone introduce Krishna to you? By teaching us how to relate to Krishna. Okay? How to relate to God. And what is that all about? It's about pure devotional service. That's what we're doing. The 9 process of devotional service. Hearing purifies our heart. Hearing about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna gives fulfillment to the mind, to the heart, to our whole being, because we begin to appreciate that word where we belong. And while we are in this world, what will happen when we live in that dimension of this transcendental meditation of chanting the holy names every day, then when we leave this world, this body, that's where our heart will go, because that is our life. So you may be engaged in teaching, you may be engaged in farming, whatsoever. You need association with devotees. And the association with devotees is not a group thing. It's an association of following the instruction of the spiritual master. Because the instruction of the spiritual master connects our heart, our life with the will of God. Is it clear sa inyo? So the spiritual master is a teacher by example. That's why it's very important to have a bona fide spiritual master. So you must check. Okay? So if you're selfish, you have material consideration, you will be inclined to follow a group because you wanted something. Okay? And if it's that you wanted something for yourself lang, then you're in the wrong direction. Because the science of Bhakti Yoga is harmony with God. And when you're in harmony with God, with Krishna, the Supreme Person, it is about His pleasure. And when you are engaged in in those activities, what will happen? Your heart will glide towards what is pleasing to God. And it gives you satisfaction and happiness because He's the source. It's like watering the root of the tree. All the leaves and branches will be nourished. Pleasing God is like you give food to the stomach, it will come back to you. You understand? Is it clear sa inyo? So, before, in a truest sense, kung titignan nyo, sa experience lahat ng those who came in contact with the pure loving servant of God, they were in such a situation wherein they're lost. They have misdirected their life. They're not, if you look closely, through associating with a bona fide spiritual master, they did, all of them, they did have a change of heart. Meaning, they're able to connect their life with the will of God. And they can have determination to carry on. Material, bhakti means you enjoy material life, senses, then after a while, it becomes dull and pale and walang lasa, chewing the chew. Spiritual life is not like that. Hindi ganon. The more you are enlightened, the more you long and you engage in austerity and sacrifice because it is a direction of a protection wherein you are not touched by what is happening here because your heart, your life is completely surrendered to someone you love. You make a stand to make this conscious decision to please God. Then you are on a path that is a path of perfection. Okay? So when you make this decision in your life, lahat tayo, from now on, let me serve you, my dear Lord. If you make this one decision in your life, when you hear this transcendental truth, and then you know it's hard, but you need help, and that help will be your protection, because that is the promise of Lord Krishna. And you can, through hearing, through chanting, you can remember how all those who were burning, who were drowning, simply by following the instruction of the saintly person, the embrace of Lord Krishna, the care and love, the wish, and they're thankful and take shelter of their instruction. They are all protected and they succeeded. Remember Migari? Remember the prostitute? Bali Maharaj? The Brahmana who meditates? Okay? All the residents of Vrindavan? Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj? How they were protected by Lord Krishna. No one. Lord Krishna tells everyone, declare it boldly, my devotee never perish. So bhakti means you are not under the protection of God. You're under the control of the energy of God, matter. You'll never succeed. But when you put your life in harmony with your true transcendental nature, with His wisdom, then you're protected. And Krishna tells you, just surrender unto me, I'll protect you. Abandon all varieties of religion. Just give your life, your heart to me. And that is the teaching of Christianity. The teachings of Jesus. Love the Father with thy whole heart, with thy whole heart, with thy whole mind, thy whole being. Kaya nga ang prayer when I was brought up in this Christian community, our prayer is every day, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So when you chant the holy names of God, then you're in a transcendental world. Kaya you experience here, you chant, it's a different world. Then you get out of this temple, you're alone, you forget the chanting, then wow, Maya comes in. Okay? Remember, somewhere along the line, did you forget about this, about that, about that? You know? All the experience. And then you become confused. Then you chant Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Then you engage again. The more you engage in the practice, it means through practice, perfection comes. That's why devotional service in practice. And the culmination is when we are free from material desires. And when you are free from material desires, meaning the desire has become purified, it's now the desire to do the will of God. Then you succeed. Because you can carry, you can hurdle. Alam niyo yung hurdle? Alam niyo yung tumatakbo kayo sa palaro, yung tatalon, ikot, talo kayo ng hirap talagang i-hurdle nyo. But you are able to hurdle. Talong ka sa jumping, alam mo yung ganun? Talong ka, jumping, You are able to hurdle and then through practice, you develop the stamina and everything. And then you can hurdle. Kaya mong, it's like the astronaut who goes to the moon, for example. Okay? Goes to an environment where the environment of Earth is not existing. Air. Okay? They practice. There's no gravity. Every day they practice for months and months to be in that environment. And they use this suit and they use this aircraft to go to a place that has no gravity. and everything there, there's no air. But they bring the environment of the earth. Okay. Is it clear sa inyo? So I'll read you something that will enhance our what is protection from Lord Krishna. Okay. Lord Krishna came here 5,000 years ago, protecting his devotee, and he wants us to go back home where we belong. Okay. Devouring the forest fire. While Krishna and Balaram and their friends were engaged in the pastimes described above, the cows, being unobserved, began to wander off on their own, entering further and further into the deepest part of the forest, allured by fresh grasses. The goats and cows and buffalo traveled from one forest to another. So there's so many forests pala sa Brindaban, sa paligid. The goats and cows and buffalo traveled from one forest to another and entered the forest known as Isikatabi. This forest was full of green grass, and therefore they were allured. But when they entered, they saw that there was a forest fire, and they began to cry. On the other side, Balaram and Krishna, along with their friends, could not find their animals, and they became very aggrieved. They began to trace the cows by following their footprints, as well as the path of eaten grass. All of the boys were fearing that their very means of livelihood, the cows, were now lost. Soon, however, they heard the crying of their cows. Krishna began to call the cows by their respective names. So lahat pala ng mga cows may mga pangalan. Okay? Parang tayo, may mga pangalan kayo. Krishna Das, Keshava Das, okay? Nashinga Das, Das means servant. Ananta Das, Ananta means the supreme person and you're a servant. So Krishna calls all the cows with their names. Okay? Soon, however, they heard the crying of their cows. Krishna began to call the cows of their respective names. And with great noise, upon hearing Krishna calling, the cows immediately replied with joy. By this time, the forest fire surrounded all of them, and the situation appeared to be very fearful. The flames increased as the wind blew very quickly, and it appeared that everything movable and immovable would be devoured. All the cows and the boys became very frightened, and they looked towards Balaram the way a dying man looks at the picture of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They said, "Dear Krishna and Balaram, we are now burning from the heat of the blazing fire. Let us take shelter of your lotus feet. We know you can protect us from the great danger. Our dear friend Krishna, we are your intimate friends. It's not right that we should suffer in this way. We are all completely dependent on you, and you are the knower of all religious life. We do not know anyone except you." The personality of Godhead heard the appealing voice of his friends, and casting a pleasing glance over them, he began to answer by speaking through his eyes. So that is why Krishna, the Supreme Person, can perform anything with the different parts of this body. When you offer, you don't see Krishna eating. He can eat with his eyes. He can eat with his hand. Okay? Because he has this omnipotent, inconceivable potency. Tayo, gusto natin kumain, kailangan kunin mo, lagay mo sa bibig. Si Krishna, when you offer, he eats through his eyes. Okay? Just put it in front of me. If it's offered with love and devotion, you experience a connection. You see Krishna smiling. But you don't imagine, okay? And that clarity comes when your heart, our life is pleasing. When we relate to God in a loving devotion, in an offering of devotion. Okay? Humbleness. Okay? And he began to answer by speaking through his eyes. He impressed his friend that there was no cause for fear. Then Krishna, the supreme mystic, the powerful personality of Godhead, immediately swallowed up all the flames of the fire. The cows and boy were thus saved from the imminent danger. Out of fear, the boys were almost unconscious. But when they regained their consciousness and opened their eyes, they saw that they were again in the forest with Krishna, Balaram, and the cows. They were astonished to see that they were completely free from the attack of the blazing fire, and the cows were saved. They secretly thought that Krishna must not be an ordinary boy, but some demigod. In the evening, Krishna and Balaram, along with the boys and cows, returned to Vrindavan, playing their flutes. As they approached the village, all the gopis became very joyous. Throughout the day, the gopis used to think of Krishna while he was in the forest, and in his absence, they were considering one moment to be like 12 years. Okay? Yun yung devotee. So when you chant the holy names, what will happen? You will be connected with what you're longing for. And the chanting and the meditation begins to put you in a transcendental world of longing and meditation and appreciating God's love and mercy for you, for us. While we are in this material world, we long for Him. So when you leave this body, you go to Him. So Lord Krishna tells us, what state of mind you remember at the time of death, that state you will attain. Or in the teachings of Christianity, as you seek, as you sow, you shall reap. Kung anong tinanim mo, yun ananim mo. A certain activity leads to a certain consciousness. So, back to the point. Mukti or bhakti enjoyment leads to mukti. And mukti leads back again to bhakti. Pabalik-balik lang. Okay? What is needed is bhakti, love. And that is understood clearly through following the footsteps of the saintly person. Because from them, we can learn and appreciate what love is. What surrender is. Okay? You don't need to experience all the pain in this world. Like those, if you follow someone who is a materialist, you look what's happening. Okay? Like what we discussed. You associate with materialistic person. Bhakti, okay? And you think it's okay. So what happened through association, through hearing, then what we discussed yesterday, previously, that you get exploited. Because materialistic relationship is about getting something, about being eaten and exploited. Is it clear sa inyo? So this world is a very dangerous world because all those who come here are lured. That's why association is very important. Intindihan mo? So now, your life is in your hands, okay? Gusto mong you want to dance with the fire? Fine. But if you want to dance with the holy names of Krishna, then your life will become very pleasing to the spiritual master and you succeed. And that is the mission of Lord Chaitanya. Harinama. Harinama, Harinama, Eva Kevalam, Kolowa ng Steba Gatiranyata. In this age of Kali Yuga, there is no other alternative. There is no other alternative. There is no other alternative. Okay? To experience a connection with pure loving devotional service to the Supreme Person while in this world. Is it clear? So let's chant the holy names. You have any question that you want to get clarified? Is it clear? So now, it's up to you to experience what life is, okay? Because for so long, we have been experiencing this suffering, this dead world. Haribol, namaste.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda.
Everybody sing loud, Haribol.
Paramahamsa namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Chaitanya,
Bhakti Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur the Vrinda
Radha Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasati Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana
Hari Bol Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govinda Rama
Krishna,
Madana Mohana
Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Haribol
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana
Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hari Bol Krishna,
Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana 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 Haribol
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana
Gopala Gopita Rama, Madana Mohana, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Goranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Goranga. Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namadehi Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastaya Te